There is a dirty secret about success that nobody tells you until you are already there. We assume that as our titles get bigger, our confidence will grow with them. We assume that once we hit a certain salary or manage a certain number of people, the insecurity will vanish. We think there's a magic threshold where we finally feel like we made it. But for high achievers, the opposite often happens. The more successful you become on the outside, the more insecure you feel on the inside. The stakes feel higher, the spotlight feels brighter, and the distance between who people think you are and who you feel like you are gets wider every single day. This is what I call the competence trap. It is the widening gap between your resume and your reality. On paper, you're an expert. You're a leader. You're the person everyone else looks to for answers. You have the track record, the results, and the accolades to prove it. But in your head, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're waiting for someone to tap you on the shoulder and say, "We made a mistake. You don't actually belong here." If you are nodding your head right now, let me tell you something important. You are not alone, and you are not broken. You are just caught in a loop that affects high performers. It's actually a sign that you care deeply about your work, but that care has turned into anxiety. Today, I want to walk you through the 3 major signs that you are stuck in the competence trap. But you aren't just going to list them. I want to show you exactly what they look like in your daily work, what they're costing you, and how to start shifting them today. Sign number 1 is overfunctioning. This is the most common symptom I see in new leaders and high achievers. Overfunctioning looks like doing everyone else's job because it feels safer than leading. You are maybe the manager who is still rewriting every email your team sends before it goes out. Maybe you're the director who is still fixing, formatting on slide decks at 11 p.m. because it just has to be perfect. Maybe you're the one jumping into the weeds to solve a problem your direct report should be handling, simply because you can solve it faster. You tell yourself, it's just faster if I do it myself, or I just have high standards, or I just don't want to burden them. But let's be honest, that isn't about standards. It isn't about speed. It's about control. When you feel like a fraud internally, you try to compensate by being useful externally. You think if you just work harder than everyone else, if you're the busiest, most exhausted person in the room, nobody will notice that you feel inadequate. You are trying to earn your seat at the table every single day by outworking your own team. What does this cost you? The cost here is massive. First, you are burnout bound. You physically cannot scale your career if you are doing everyone else's work. Second, and more importantly, you are robbing your team of their own growth. Every time you fix their work, you teach them that they don't need to be excellent because you're going to save them. And third, as long as you are overfunctioning, you are underleading. You cannot be strategic when you are stuck in tactics. Sign number 2 is discounting success. This is the language you use when you win. It's a subtle form of self-sabotage that keeps your confidence low even when your results are high. It happens in the quiet moments after a win. When you maybe land that big client and everyone celebrates, you say, "Oh, we just got lucky with the timing. The market was just right." Maybe when you get a promotion, you say, they really didn't have anyone else for the role. I was just the only option. Or when someone compliments your presentation, you deflect it immediately. "Oh, I threw that together like last minute. It was a mess." You have a mental filter that deletes your wins and highlights your losses. It's like you have a firewall in your brain that blocks positive data. You attribute all your success to luck, timing, or your team. "We did great." But you take personal responsibility for every single failure. "I messed that up." What does this cost you? Now, this one's a little dangerous because it means you never actually internalize your own competence. You are starving your brain of the evidence it needs to feel confident. Confidence comes from a track record of success. But if you refuse to claim that track record, if you accredit it all to luck, then your brain has no data to stand on when things get tough. You are constantly resetting your confidence meter to zero. Sign number 3 is leadership silence. This is the most painful one, and often the one that stalls careers the fastest. This is when you stop using your voice because you are terrified of being wrong. All right, here's the scenario. You're sitting in a meeting, a problem comes up. You have an idea. You know the answer. You have the experience to back it up, but you hesitate. The voice in your head starts, what if I'm missing something? What if this is stupid? What if I say it and everyone realizes I don't know what I'm talking about? So you stay quiet. You shrink. You make yourself small, and then guess what? 5 minutes later, someone else says exactly what you were thinking. Everyone nods and says, oh, great point. Let's do that. And you are left sitting there frustrated with yourself thinking, I knew that. Why didn't I say it? The competence trap has convinced you that it is better to be silent and safe than vocal and vulnerable. You are playing not to lose instead of playing to win. What does this cost you? Hard truth. You weren't hired to be silent. You weren't promoted to be a warm body in a chair. You were hired for your perspective. You were hired for your judgment. Every time you withhold your voice, you're withholding the very value you are paid to provide. And over time, this silence becomes a habit. People stop looking to you for answers because you stopped giving them. You become invisible in your own role. So how do we fix this? You can't think your way out of the competence trap. You can't affirmation your way into confidence. You have to retrain how your brain processes evidence. You have to close that gap between your external success and your internal narrative. That's exactly why I created Silence the Imposter, a 21-day confidence reset. It's a structured step-by-step reset designed for high achievers who look competent on paper but feel uncertain internally. For 21 days, you work through simple daily prompts that help you gather real proof of your capabilities. It's not hype, not forced positivity, just real evidence from your own life. You'll identify your imposter pattern, interrupt overfunctioning habits that you may have, and you practice your voice instead of shrinking back. And this, if this video felt uncomfortably accurate, that's a signal. You can grab it, that 21-day confidence. You can grab that. I'll put that link in the description. You can start immediately. Success shouldn't feel like a sentence. It should feel like a reward. And if you want to keep going, I've put together a confidence playlist for people who feel like imposters. All right, click right here, wherever I put it, and I'll see you over there.